The Holocaust really did not start for us with a concentration camp, nor did it end when we were released from there, because anti-Semitism was so rampant in Hungary, beginning in 1938. And by the time the Nazis invaded Budapest in the spring of 1944, we were living in misery. And the Nazis came in March of 1944, and of course, they made hell for us. And we lived in fear, we lived in uncertainty, and then we were deported to Bergen-Belsen, and we thought Budapest had been bad, and Bergen-Belsen was absolutely sheer hell. And leaving my home, and leaving everything that I knew, for me, that was terrible. And then that was followed by a 7 or 8 day trip in a train of boxcars to Bergen-Belsen, and that was horrible. That was probably even worse than Bergen-Belsen. We were packed in like sardines. We got no food, no water. There were no sanitary facilities. The Nazis gave us 1 bucket. And there must have been about 50 to 70 people in this boxcar. We lived really pretty much the way that the concentration camps are depicted. We were overcrowded, we were cold, we were underfed. They constantly, at every opportunity, this is multiple times a day during roll call, when they delivered food, or any other reason that they came into the camp, they just barraged us with things like, you stupid, useless, dirty Jews, you have no reason to live. We're going to make sure that we get rid of you before this war is over. And you're just an underclass, you're subhuman. And this went on daily. And I was 7 years old at the time. And after a month or so of hearing this multiple times a day, I began to wonder, am I really subhuman? They stripped us of most of our humanity, of our will to do anything. And the only strong will that I remember observing is the will to live another day. And you really couldn't hope for more than that. It became a more crowded camp a little later on, during the earlier part of 1945, and there was a tremendous outbreak of typhus, and the British liberated Bergen-Belsen, and they burned the whole thing down, the whole camp, because that was the only way to contain the spread of the disease. We lost, well, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, they all died in Auschwitz. And at one point, the Nazis forced their captives, the Jews, to send letters or postcards to their relatives. And I remember getting a postcard from an aunt, my father's sister, that she was on a train and they said they were taking her to work someplace and it was going to be just fine. And of course, that particular aunt went to Auschwitz, then she went to Dachau, then she went back to Auschwitz, and she was gassed. So we had this uncertain life. We heard bombs in the distance, and so we knew that the Allies were bombing the area. They never did bomb our concentration camp area, but we knew that they were, and it's hard to believe, but we were actually very, very happy as we heard these bombs explode and saw the flares of light, because we realized that somebody was trying to annihilate this absolutely wicked, horrible people who were keeping us captive. It was military, the Allied forces, basically, that gave us hope. You know, here we are, we're downtrodden, we're maltreated, and there are these bombs being dropped. And we think, gee, somebody's looking out for us. And that was the military. I think it's phenomenal when you think about it, that there were these people putting their lives on the line every day. It sounds corny almost, but to make sure that the world can be free, that the United States can be free, and that we can be free. And I'm tremendously grateful. People should not be silent. You know, the term is not original with me. I think a number of historians have observed that there were no silent bystanders, innocent bystanders, that if you see an evil that's being perpetrated on somebody and you don't do something about it, then maybe you're just as guilty as the perpetrator. Now, obviously, if you see people with guns, as the Nazis were on the streets of Budapest, just shooting Jews at random sometimes, there's not a lot you can do, especially if you were Jewish. But by and large, when you see injustices, you have to speak up. You have to make your voice heard, and you have to make it very plain that that's not okay. Now, that's very simplistic, but I think you have to start at a grassroots level. And I think if we are all taught to be tolerant, respectful, loving, and not divisive and combative, I think that might go a long way.